understand, and that was beautiful. You got to understand that the Bible, in any ancient text, is just oral tradition.
Yeah.
That's how it starts. Any ancient text. It doesn't matter Bible, doesn't matter African text. Any ancient text is going to start from an oral tradition. Right? Meaning oral things that was passed down from generation to generation. I'll give you an example of that. There was a flood that happened and took place. Well, the Bible records it. But not only does the Bible records it, but you have other surviving manuscripts that record it as well. Other
Absolutely.
civilizations that record that there was a massive flood indeed.
Right.
All right. That have recorded it. So the Bible was oral traditions, and those oral traditions were handed down, right, and passed down. When those oral traditions got passed down to the nation of Israel, they actually prescribed it in what we would call the Ten Commandments. That's the first time we actually see the oral traditions written,
Right.
which would be the Ten Commandments.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because those are also oral traditions too, because you have what's called, a lot of Egyptologists, they try to say that they're going to stump you when they try to say, oh, the Bible comes from the laws of Ma'at.
Right.
No, the Bible doesn't come from the laws of Ma'at, but those laws were oral traditions that were passed down when the world was one people.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because those traditions survived. So the Bible is actually a book of oral traditions that were eventually written down on papyrus. Now, if you want to get a more exact example, King James wrote, or not wrote, but he had the Bible translated, authorized to be translated by the Masoretic text, the Latin Vulgate, and the Septuagint.
The Septuagint, yes.
Those were the manuscripts that King James was able to have through his influence of being a king, to have the Bible translated, authorized to be translated. King James wrote nothing in the Bible. The Bible had already been, right? Matter of fact, the reason why King James, and this is some history, and I'll just say this, the reason why King James even had the Bible authorized to be translated was because the Catholic Church was actually doing a lot of fraudulent stuff to the people at the time. And they had Bibles, but nobody was allowed to have Bibles at that time in the 1600s.
Right.
If you were caught with a Bible in the 1600s, that would mean death.
Right.
Yeah.
Only the Pope and the priest had Bibles.
Right.
And what happened was King James actually, I don't know if you know, are familiar with this history, but King James's enemies was actually the Catholic Church. This is a fact.
Yeah.
This is why you get that movie V from Vendetta. V from Vendetta is actually talking about the gunpowder plot, which the gunpowder plot is the actual assassination attempt on King James's life by the Catholic Church.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now King James, as a war tactic, or as a war tactic, he had the Bible translated. That was something that he did to put the Bible in the hands of everybody, because it shouldn't be only one person has the Bible. Kind of like that Book of Eli movie.
Right.
One person has the Bible,
Yeah.
they can control the people.
Absolutely.
So when King James had it authorized, and anybody can look up this history, King James had it authorized because of that situation. Now you can look up the Jacobites, right? King James was a part of an association called the Jacobites. The Jacobites were a group of people who were defenders of the faith. King James was a very believer in the commandments of God. The book that King James actually did write, which anybody can research this, is called the Basilicon Duran. You got that picture of it, King James? Show that picture of King James. This is an actual real picture of King James. We printed it out. We actually printed it out, but this is This is an actual real picture of King James. If you want to see his picture, just type in the book Basilicon Duran, and you'll see the original picture on the book that he actually wrote. Basilicon Duran actually means kingly gift. It was a gift that he wrote. I mean, it was laws and rules and regulations of how to be a righteous king to his son, called the Basilicon Duran. And in that book, he actually talks about fighting against his enemy and wickedness. Right. He talks about fighting against homosexuality, witchcraft. Yeah. The reason why that's important is because people say King James was a witchcraft. He did witchcraft. They say he was a homosexual. But those were lies that were put out about King James by a guy named Sir Anthony Weldon, who was hired by the Catholic Church after King James passed.
Right.
Yeah.
To write about him, to assassinate his character.
Right.
So that's how we get the King James Bible today. The King James Bible was actually a book that was created or translated from the Masoretic, the Latin Vulgate, and the
Septuagint.
Septuagint. The Spanish Bible was actually written by Reina and Valera, right? All right, Reina and Valera. Reina and Valera actually was the one that did the Bible in Spanish, and he actually got killed. They actually killed him.